Welcome to the Posture Performance Podcast, improving the intelligence of the body. Here we will talk from our experiences as fitness trainers, movement specialists, performance therapists, and educators to give you, the listener, an effective approach to get your clients healthier and stronger. We are your hosts, Bryce Turner and Laura Mastrodotti, and this podcast is for you. In this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about the fashion of fascia and all the different things that are out there in the industry in regards to, do they really train the fascial system, and what are the different approaches that people have to correcting their fascia. So we're going to discuss some of the tools that we use to try to improve this very important organ system of our body.
Hi everyone, we are here with Bryce for a new episode of this podcast. The title, Bryce, I love this title, is Fascia is Fashion. Do you like it?
I love it. It almost sounds like the same word.
Yes, today we will talk about this because fascia, nowadays is a trend topic. Everybody talk about fascia in the internet, in the social media. Everything is about fascia. Also, sometimes also out of turn, in my opinion. So the first thing that comes to my mind, if I think about fascia, I don't know you, so think about it, is like fascia-oriented dissection, dissection, fascial lines, fascial blaster. Do you know what is a fascia blaster?
I absolutely know what that is. One of the most ridiculous tools out on the market.
Stay there, I'll tell you. Foam roller obsession, okay. Fascia training, fascia release, something else?
I mean, there's fascial mobility, fascial release technique, functional fascial training. I mean, even ART is a fascial technique. There's a lot of different modalities that are out there between exercise and manual therapy, or a manual fascial therapist, or anything like that.
Fascia blaster is something like this. It's something that regards more as girls. So take a look in Instagram. It's something. It's awful. It's a tool that you have to hardly push on your thighs and glutes and whatever, and they think that it will release your cellulite, okay? And they want this. You have to take a look to that. It's something awful. Also thinking to how delicate is the fascia. They destroy the fascia with that tool, whatever. So our point in this episode of this podcast is that there are so many methodologies, and fascia is at the base. Also, it's at the base of the one of the technique that we teach, right, Eloa?
Yeah, I mean, really, all of our exercise is based in the idea of what the fascia is.
Exactly. But our point tonight is that we work with the fascia in a completely different way. I think that nobody works the fascia like we do, right? And we will explain how maybe later. So my intro about this is that a few years ago, fascia was something that was thrown away, right, by surgeons. I remember, and I always tell this story to my clients, that I had a client, a surgeon, and she told me that in the past, but not so many years ago, because she's like 40, 45, so she's not 80 years old, they used to throw it away. And she told me that she considered fascia like waste, something material with no properties, something there. She told me that was something for her, something there to fill the empty spaces, which is for some reason, it's almost true, but without any kind of properties and nothing. And one of the things that come to my mind, and then I want to ask you to explain what fascia is. The first thing that comes to my mind is the beautiful definition of fascia that Carla Stecco, then we will explain who is Carla Stecco, gives about fascia, she defined fascia the forgotten organ, and I like it.
Yeah.
So can you explain what fascia is?
Yeah, so fascia is a specialized connective tissue that we have in our body that surrounds every structure that we have. It surrounds the bones, it surrounds the muscles, it makes up the tendons and ligaments, it surrounds our organs, it surrounds the vessels, the nerves, everything that we have that's structurized in the body. The fascia is providing some sort of integrity to that structure by either creating an encasement around it, or it, as a fiber, travels through it like it travels through the muscle. And it's all the way down to the cellular level. So the properties of the fascia, which are collagen cells and fibers that come together and create this structure, it's part of the cellular wall. It's part of these global structures, as you said earlier, that creates this global link in the body, creating these fascial lines, or these links that we have all the way from head to toe. It carries our water or our fluid systems in our body, not just what it supports in regards to veins and vessels and things like that, or the lymph system, but it actually carries the fluid of our body to allow there to be a lubricating property of movement between the layers of tissue or organs moving around and whatnot. So it has a big role of carrying nutrition. It has a big role in managing the immune system. It has the properties of carrying waste out. It also creates a communication pathway in that fluid system, which is, we'll say, like the voltage of our body. So the more hydrated and healthy the fascia is, the better that it communicates and allows better movement of our body or better communication of our body so that we can be healthier. So it's really everything from the external structure of our skin, the superficial fascia, to everything deep that surrounds the deep parts of our organs and bones and all the little microstructures that we have.
Exactly. Now fascia is under the lens of the researchers around the world. And I have to say that I'm proud to say that the most famous researchers about this topic are Italians. So I mentioned Carla Stecco and the Carla Stecco family. Carla Stecco, her brother and their father at University of Padua. They discover the incredible properties of fascia, biomechanical properties, proprioception. It has a role in pain. Someone says that fascia can be a pain generator. There are great studies about this, and they discovered that it has a role in a female hormonal system. Okay, a role. When I say pain generator, I was referring to thoracolumbar fascia, so low back pain.
Sure.
And because of its properties, there are many fields of application. And of course, one of these fields is our fields, so fitness and rehabilitation. They are studying this in all around the world. So back to my intro. So our field. We must thank probably Tom Mayers. That was, I think, he was the first that cataloged the so-called fascial lines, which is different than we do in Eldora, okay? But he catalogs the fascial line. He gives a name. He studied it, and because now, because there are some trends also in our fields, we are now assisting to serious professionals, I mean organization like the Fascia Training Society, like the World Congress of Fascia, etc. They are studying and organizing and focusing their research on fascia in our fields, so fitness and manual rehabilitation. But there are also many fake, in my opinion, that are using all these things and they are taking advantage about this. Like, before we go in depth in what I want to say, is that when there is movement, you said before that fascia allow movement, right? So every kind of movement regards fascia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And most importantly, the hydration of that fascia, right? So even if you go to fascia causes pain, the research there is if the slide effect of the thoracolumbar fascia, as you said, for lower back pain is reduced to 50% of its capacity, a lot of times you're going to get that fascial pain in there because it doesn't move as well or it's not as hydrated enough to be able to slide and glide, as we say. And so if you can improve that movement from 50% to 75% of its potential, the back pain can be treated. And a lot of times there's a big diminishment of what normal pain would be from that tissue, essentially creating an inflammatory response because you don't have that lubricating factor of allowing the sliding glide, so it generates inflammation in the system or even creates a immune response.
But when I was saying that there are many fake, I mean, again, every time you move, you are moving your fascia. Okay.
Yeah.
So all this fake, also in my field, Pilates, fascia, myofascial Pilates, something like that. We have to pay attention. I mean,
yeah,
right. So fascia.
We don't want to have that fake news out there.
Yes, they're saying we are training fascia, but essentially they're doing the normal, I mean, official, call it whatever you want, the normal exercise. And yes, I'm stimulating my fascia, doing like this, okay?
Right.
They're no inventing something new, I mean, no?
Right.
And
yeah, they have to, in the proper movement schemes of fascial training, you have to load the fascia. And we look at it a lot of time in our program that we're loading the fascia via the tension or the global stimulation of that fascial line, whereas a lot of movement programs or mobility programs are not as specific about trying to really tap into that link of the body.
I interviewed twice, Fabiana Silva. She's a great person. She's a great researcher, and she's one of the yes. She organized the World Congress of Fascia. Okay, and during these interviews, she told me fascia must be stimulated, and there are many ways to stimulate fascia. She said through manual stuff, through vibration, she said, and one of the way to stimulate fascia is movement, exercise, okay? So my question for you is, can fascia be trained? Don't talk about Eldoa too soon, but can fascia be trained?
Yeah, and fascia or Eldo is just one of our tools, right? One of our exercises that really focuses on how to use the fascia and how to stimulate the different fascial lines to try to leverage open joints. But again, like if we look at the Soma training program, 90% of what's in that program all deals with fascial exercise. I mean, that's always been the goal from the start, is how do we harness the power of the fascia via exercise or movement, right? And how do we train the intelligence of our body and not just do dumb movement or things that aren't as stimulating enough? So, part of that is, looking at proprioceptive exercises. How do we stimulate the neurological process that lives in those fascial systems, like the ligaments? How do we strengthen based on the direction of the fascial fibering and understand what that fascial biomechanics are, so that we're moving properly in a way that not only strengthen the musculature, but also trying to reinforce all of the different fibering that has to do with the muscle and the fascial system. And that's what I mean by loading the fascia. How do we stimulate all the different parts? Because a lot of times if we're a bodybuilder or a power lifter, we're very strong in very particular movement schemes, which creates an efficiency. Like if I was to do squats all the time, it's a multi-planar movement through a lot of different joints, but I'm going to get very strong at moving down and moving up. But as soon as I have to rotate, my fascial system or my connective tissue or my neurological system hasn't adapted to some of those different movement patterns. And so the fascia isn't strong enough to maintain the musculature or the stress that's going through the body. And so we have to be able to load it in all these different planes of movement for strengthening and for even mobility, which is where the integrity of that fascia is so important, not only from the hydration standpoint, but how it moves as we do exercise or do sport or move in life, so that the connective tissue doesn't tear, or we don't find a vulnerability or a weakness in it where something else that's either a load to the body or a contraction of a muscle overrides that connective tissue, and then you tear something or you injure something. So all of our exercise is geared towards, how do we mobilize the fascia all the way down to the ligament? How do we educate the nerve? How do we move the muscle better, the myofascia? How do we move many systems of muscles, which is like a GPS exercise? How do we strengthen it by doing different reinforcements of, and understanding how those biomechanics of the fascial lines work in relationship with the muscle? How do we do an LDOA and leverage the fascial tension to try to restore the joint? So all of these are to build and create a better integral system. Just like if you had somebody that had a bone density problem, what do we usually tell somebody with a bone density problem? We tell them to do weight-bearing exercise. Well, if you're going to have a better fascial system, aside from approaching it from a hydration standpoint and eating the right foods and having a good lifestyle capacity, we also need to move in a particular way that loads the fascia to create a better integrity or density of that fascia, so that it's strong and it's intelligent and it moves, which is really our tensegrity system, right? We talk a lot about tensegrity. And its integrity defines the structure, the balance of the structure, right? It has to be mobile enough, but it has to be stable enough. And the balance between both of those things is the idea of what the tensegrity model is defined by, which the perfect example of that is the fascial system.
Now, my role in this podcast is to take you back to heart. Because this is not an LDOA podcast. So let's think that someone is watching us and listen to our podcast. So now is the time that I explain what LDOA is, because we talk for hours about LDOA, but maybe someone don't know what LDOA is. So yeah. I want to finish in simple words, like I'm able to do this episode, explaining exactly how LDOA works, what LDOA is, and how we work with the fascia. So fascia for us in our LDOA world is the medium to get the target joint. So fascia, so LDOA, it's about fascia and the tissue, absolutely, but it's medium that we use to get the target joint. Target joint, that could be the whole spine, every single segment, or other joints in the body that we want to decoapt. We say decoapt, that means we can translate it decompress, create space inside, okay? So to do it, we put intention on the body in a specific posture, we do specific movement with our limbs, with our head, with our eyes, okay? And the goal is to put intention the fascia from head to toe. We monitor using our hands that fascial tension. So we monitor if the person, if our clients is in tension from head to toe. We can feel it. We can feel the difference in the changing of the tissue, okay? And we can feel if we are decoapting, creating space in the right link using our hands through palpation, and if he really opened that joint or no, maybe he have to push more, lengthen more. Okay, I can feel you, and this is LDOA basically, right? And then we will improve. Yes, we will open up that joint, and we will improve also the quality of that tissue, the quality of that fascia, the sliding of the different layers of the tissue, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Did I pass the exam, the test?
Yeah, you passed the exam.
Okay,
yeah, and I think to add to that, I think a lot of people, when we talk about LDOA is not a sexy exercise, right? It's not like
wait. I'm sexy in my pictures. I can I can try to make a dog sexy.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But generally, like if you look at Pilates, it could be very, elegant looking, and yoga is very elegant looking, and Eldoa is just hard work, right? You have to get in these postures, and although the posture may look very nice and you can dress very nice for the postures, it's a very difficult exercise to try to create this opening effect and try to retrain or re-architect the fascial system. And when we are working with people, a lot of times, the people who are very tight in their body, we have to make modifications for sometimes. And they will say that Eldoa is harder. And sometimes we have a harder time getting them to do it because they're very tight in their body, which sometimes takes more effort for them to do the right posture. But sometimes the assumption is that if you're very mobile and very flexible, that doing an Eldoa is easier, and it's actually harder, because that person who's very flexible and flaccid in their tissue, they don't have a good integrity of that tissue. And so they have to work even harder to try to create that tension in their body to try to leverage open a space at the spine or in a joint or anything like that. So a lot of times to increase or improve the fascia, we have to do a lot of strengthening with somebody like that to improve their integrity, almost like we want to tighten them up a little bit. Because again, if we go back to that balance of scale, if they're too flexible and too mobile, that's a detriment to their body. And if you're too tight and too stable, that's a detriment to the body. And we're trying to have a balance between both of those things.
Yes.
So and a lot of times we say Eldoa is a stretch, but it's not, right? It's a strengthening exercise. So everybody should understand that this is actually creating strength and creating stability as much as we're trying to, we'll say, mobilize or open up a space. It's not a stretch, but everybody understands it to be a stretch because we're working with the fascia and you're doing these elongated positions, but we're really improving the strength at these, we'll say, end ranges or extreme ranges, as we say, of contraction of the muscle.
Yes.
So
to close all this that we said, can we say that we are training the fascia?
Oh yeah, we're training the fascia. These are all fascial exercises. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. We hope we explain something more about what we do, which is the final meaning of this podcast, to explain to the world what we do.
Yeah.
Because we believe that there is a revolution in our world, definitely, and we are here to explain exactly what's happening here around.
Yeah.
Okay, so see you in the next episode. The next episode will be particular, right? With regard the world again of us trainers and our life, how we manage the stress of working with people and exchanging of energy, and let's see. Okay, we will see our listener and etc. in July, right?
In July. That's it.
Okay, Bryce, thank you.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Ciao, ciao.